Lately, we've had a bunch of new stuff coming out, and I figured I have enough stuff on my desk to make a kind of an update video about the tech that I use and things that I've changed about how I build things and what I use. Okay, so I'm going to start off with something that I think is the biggest upgrade that we have seen in FPV in the past probably 2 years. The hands down biggest upgrade, because our cameras have not changed. We have the same crummy HS1177 Sony 600 CCD as we did from day one, and we got a minor update with the monster camera, which I personally like a lot, but it's the 16:9 wide CMOS sensor. But I do know that a lot of people still prefer the CCD sensor, and in this case I have abandoned my monster cameras for this camera in particular, particularly the Runcam version. I'll talk about the Foxeer version in a second, but this camera is the same sensor. It's the same exact sensor as the HS1177. It's just the bare board, and then they just stuck a tiny little lens on top that they developed especially for the board. This camera weighs 5 grams. I think it's just 5 grams solid, or I think it's like 5.5 grams or 5. It's around 5 grams, which is crazy because the regular HS1177 is about 13-14 grams. I think it's like a 10-11 gram saving with zero downside. That's the biggest part. Now this is the Swift Camera 1. I have the Swift 2 in this quad, and the video that you're seeing on the screen is actually the video from the Swift 2. They are identical except for the fact that the Swift 2 has voltage readout on the screen, which is a great addition. The Foxeer version, there's only 2 reasons why I prefer the Runcam version. Actually, I think I like the lens on the Foxeer a little bit better, just because it has a narrower. It's just smaller. The Foxeer weighs 0.3 grams more, which is I mean, it's insignificant really. 0.3 grams is nothing, but it weighs 0.3 grams more. The lens protrudes a little bit farther, as you can see here, but it is a smaller lens. And this protruding lens is, I mean, this camera is so darn small that it gets lost inside your frame. Look how far back it is. And this is after I've worked with Brain 3D to make this camera mount, the print, so that the camera can move as far forward as possible. The problem is that the screw that holds the camera is in the way of the standoff. So people have made like these little sling mounts, or Brent Collier has made this sling mount to hold the camera directly between the standoffs to move it further forward. But the sling mount is not, it's not ideal because it can kind of move a little bit more. So I prefer this kind of mount more, but the sling mount is also an excellent mount. I mean, they're both great mounts. The goal is just to move the camera further forward. And the reason why I actually like this protruding lens is because it moves the camera farther forward. It makes it a little bit bigger, which is a shock to say that a bigger camera is better. Anyways, the Foxeer version it had a voltage OSD readout from day one, which then Runcam followed up with their Runcam version 2. And I also know that there is a new Runcam coming out. It is the Micro Sparrow, which is a 16:9 CMOS sensor, and I am hugely looking forward to that camera because I really like the 16:9 sensor. And they also made a 2.1 lens specifically for that sensor. I know I'm going to love that camera. I know it's going to be low latency. I know exactly what it's going to be, and I'm just waiting so much for it. But the biggest reason why I prefer the Runcam is because it has conformal coating on the PCB. And I actually told Foxeer, like, why didn't you guys put conformal coating on the PCB? It doesn't even make sense. I mean, all the pins are bare. They're all exposed. All the pins are 100% exposed. There isn't even like glue on there. When you look at the Runcam, it's got like glue all over the place, and it's got conformal coating all over it, so it just makes you feel a little bit better if you're flying around in like moist weather or something. They also sent me this, which is the Eagle 2, which honestly I have not even plugged in because I don't care one bit for this camera. And the reason why I don't care one bit for it, even though it's a 16:9 wide CMOS sensor and it's all the good stuff and it's got an aluminum case, super strong, it weighs 20 grams. So I took it out of the box just to make this video. I don't even want to plug it in because I don't care how good the quality is, because these cameras are more than sufficient and they are so much lighter. It's just ridiculous. All right, that's enough about cameras. Okay, so the next thing. You guys already saw the video previously about the the AOK Fly motor, which is fantastic. This is another motor. This is from Sumax. This is not like a super low priced motor, but it is very similar to the AOK Fly. It just has a casing that's more reasonably like open and, you know, more normal for what we're used to. I haven't flown it yet, but I've heard from other pilots that it feels great, and it has a thin base to it, which I don't like. I asked them to actually make it a little bit thicker because I don't know why they made it so thin. But it's a 29.5 gram 2207 motor, 2600 kV. It should be fantastic. So that's just something I had on my desk. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about are PCBs and things from Underground FPV. So Underground FPV is a company of people that have it's an aggregate of people that have come together from various other companies and different fields. And they do really, so I've worked with a lot of groups now that develop these things, and honestly, the Underground FPV guys are the most professional and well-managed group of people that I have worked with pretty much in any field, even in dentistry and other areas as well. They are really on point. They're really on the ball, and I cannot say how much I appreciate that enough. Like, I really, truly appreciate how on point they are, and they're making some products that are really good. They work with Airbot, and I think Airbot like licenses their stuff to people, but a lot of their stuff is kind of like remakes of Airbot stuff, and Airbot actually adopts some of the stuff that they make too. And this board that you're looking at right here, this is their crazy PDB, and they call it the Insanity Matrix PDB. And it's insanity because their whole concept was to get rid of the caps on the quad entirely. So we don't really use PDBs so much anymore because we have flight controllers that have PDBs built into them now, and then we have like 4 or 5 options which are really excellent. So this is really intended for your ridiculous builds, 6-inch, 6S craziness builds, I would say, because it's a crazy PDB. It has a 5-volt on it, and the reason I'm showing you this paper is because I also massively appreciate good instructions and some really nice printouts that are nicely labeled, intelligently labeled. I'm not going to say who sucks at doing this, but there are people that absolutely suck at doing this. So I appreciate the amazing instructions that come with the product, that you don't have to go looking up online, you don't have to look around for some random stuff. And the biggest downside to this board to me is that it weighs 14.5 grams. So I'm actually going to be putting this into a large aerial platform that I'm building for some professional purpose, some other group, just to like show for a demo and test some other things. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about is a huge thing. It's a huge thing. huge thing. This thing is freaking awesome. It is beautiful. What you are looking at is a 32-bit 4-in-1, I believe 35 amp ESC that will burst up to 45, 50 amps or something. This thing is just massive. It is awesome. And it's awesome because it's based on the Wraith 32-bit ESCs. And the Wraith 32-bit ESCs are what I'm using on this quad. Oh, no, actually, I'm not using it on this quad. So I'm going to use my other quad. Anyways, the Wraith 32-bit ESCs are excellent. They are some of the best performing ESCs that I have used. Now, I'm just guessing here, but I believe BL Heli 32 is another step up in quality requirements. Now, there's a bunch of other stuff that they need to also include, like a current sensor and various other things. I don't know if they require it, but there's other stuff that it supports, obviously, and it has a 32-bit processor and does a whole bunch more. But for now, I'm not getting those improvements because the code doesn't really fully 100% support. I don't even think Betaflight 3.2 fully supports all the features of BL Heli 32 just yet. But the actual ESC itself just performs really well. It's the Wraith 32 ESCs, particularly the Kamikaze ones from Underground FPV, have been perfect. They have very even power delivery and just have been overall really solid ESCs, and I really like them. And this board was based on that particular ESC, so it's awesome. You can see the massive FETs on the board. It has a current sensor built in as well. It also has the instructions, as you can see here, fantastic instructions. It has the telemetry out from the ESC to go to the flight controller. If you don't know what telemetry out is, that is how the ESC transmits to the flight controller RPM data, various current data, and other data that the flight controller can make use of to better manage the ESCs and do the flight stuff. And you can see over here that you get all this stuff. The one thing that's actually not on this instruction page, which I'm going to ask them about, are the caps that it comes with. So this comes with a 25 volt 2200 microfarad capacitor, as well as a, what is it? It is a 35 volt 470 microfarad capacitor, and honestly I don't even know which one I would use for what. One's 35 volts, so I think that one's intended for 6S, and one is 25 volt, which is, I mean, maybe intended for 4S. I don't know, maybe use both of them. I'm not really sure. I'm going to ask them what the optimal use of these two are, and I'm going to ask them to put it on the instructions too, because that just makes sense for them to do that. Anyways, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to use this in yet, because it's just a massively crazy beautiful ESC, but it does 6S, and I'm pretty sure it's going to do 6S perfectly, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a freaking solid 4-in-1 ESC. Okay, so now the next thing is this flight controller. This flight controller is, again, it's the Kamikaze flight controller that is also based on off Airbot as well. And this is the first flight controller that I have held in hand that has two new features on it. Two new things that I have not seen on any other flight controller before. The first feature is that it has 3 pins here for the lines from the ESC, the signal, ground, and telemetry pins. So this is the first flight controller that I have held in hand that will receive telemetry signal from the ESCs to give the flight control software all the goodies it needs to do, all the stuff that it needs to do to, you know, take advantage of Heli 32. So that's fantastic. And also, the great thing about this flight controller is that you don't have to worry about soft mounting it, because apparently they've taken care of that already. They have this little box on top of here, and the IMU board, which is the gyro, is right inside that box. It's supposedly soft mounted inside that box, and you don't have to worry about it. It's encased in silicone right on top of the F4 processor. The board looks, I mean, all this stuff that's coming from Underground FPV looks really high quality, and I have not had any problems with any of the boards yet. I really am not associated with them in any way. I just really truly appreciate the effort that they put into all this stuff and their drive to improve things. As you can see here, it has an SD card slot. It's got a current sensor on board. It has the VT OSD on board as well. I don't really use I don't really use any flight controller anymore, because I'll tell you why the next thing I'm going to show you. These little pins on the side, they're annoying because there's just so many of them, but fortunately it comes with some fantastic instructions over here that you can see. Yeah, 2 sides instructions. Excellent instructions that give you all that you need to know. Oh, and look at that. This is made to work with the 4-in-1 ESC. And they have all of the, I think it has telemetry also. Maybe. No, actually, I'm not sure. It seems like the signal header coming out, the pin header coming off the 4-in-1, might not carry telemetry data to the, yeah, it does not. It does not carry telemetry data to the flight controller, but it does carry the current sense information. So again, I don't know if Heli, I'm sorry, I don't know if Betaflight will actually take advantage of the new information from the ESCs just yet, but it's there for you, and you can wire it in pretty easily by going to the little signal pins from the flight control, from the 4-in-1 ESC. Really wanted to show here is, this is the reason why I'm making this video. This board is gorgeous. This is gorgeous, and the reason why it's gorgeous is because it is the Asguard all-in-one, but it's upgraded. This is the upgraded version that Underground FPV have developed, and it has an upgraded 5-volt rail, and it has the holes are larger and it fits the grommets, and it's got an upgraded PCB as well. But aside from that, it's mostly the same. There's a couple other upgrades on it as well too. You can pause the video and look at the features here. There's the features, and once again, it comes with fantastic instructions. And I hope other people are watching that make these things, because I am showing these instructions for them, because I really hope that they take the time and effort to make such a beautiful diagram like this that's very easy to read, very easy to follow. I mean, these traces and lines are just so valuable. I mean, I don't need anything else. I don't even need to open my phone or anything to figure out how to wire this darn thing. And look, it even has a QR code for the manual in case you need to actually get to the manual. And there's another thing that's pretty interesting about this board. So something that I just learned about the Asguard, you cannot do what's it called, smart audio or IRC tramp VTX signal changing from the UART 3 on this board. I don't know why, or not UART3, UART1 on this board. So these pins over here, there's a UART6, which is what you're supposed to use for your S bus in, and then there's a UART1 that I don't even know what you're supposed to use. And then there's I don't even know, there's video in, video out on the other side, so you really do have to look at the diagram to see how to wire this thing up. So what they have done is they've given you a little workaround, and they've included a little inverter. And this inverter is annoying to wire up because it requires 5 volt as well as the signal lines and TX lines, but it will give you the ability to run your smart audio off signal line 1. Now, I don't know if I'm actually going to be doing that, and I have a feeling that there might be actually, yes, TX, it says right here. Right here it says latest version there, do not flash previous version, not be able to make any of the. Okay, so it's saying that please use Betaflight 3.2 because of, I think, the UART3 telemetry on the front of the board. I believe, I have not tried this yet, but I believe that you can wire up your smart audio to the telemetry pin, which is one of these 2 pins over here, to actually use smart audio from this board without needing this inverter. Now, the reason why I like this board is because it's just so darn simple. It weighs 17 grams and it is so easy to wire up. And the biggest thing about this board is that I have had it in this quad since the beginning, since I built this quad. And this is the one with the ZMX motors, which are fantastic motors, and it's just performed absolutely flawlessly. It has the most even power output of any board that I've used. Any board. It includes individual 32-bit Wraith ESCs. The ESCs on this are not 32-bit. They are regular Heli S ESCs, as are on the regular Asguard. I do know that there is a new version of this coming in the future. I don't know if it's coming anytime soon, but future that will have the 32-bit ESCs on board, but this one does not. And I don't really care because it performs fantastic. And moving here on, going here forward, I will really only be using this board for my 5-inch or my large-scale Acro quads because it just makes my life easier, and I build so much of this crap that I don't have time for anything else. So it's fantastic, and I like it. I have not had any problems with it just yet. I will definitely report back if I start having problems, but for now, this is what I use. It also has a warranty, so that like if anything happens, you just exchange it like for like $40, $45 or something. So I don't know. I don't know any of that stuff. I just know that it saves me a whole bunch of time, and I like it. That's all. Oh yeah, and it also comes with some heat sinks for the ESCs, which apparently make them more stable. So yeah, that's nice too. The next thing I want to show you is this little guy. This is a 25 amp 4-in-1 20 by 20 ESC board. ESC board. It's Heli S. This is from the Sunrise company. Now, Sunrise is a company that's very hit or miss. I've been working with them for well over a year now, and like I said, a lot of stuff is hit or miss. Some stuff is good, some stuff is not so good. And this board, shockingly, is pretty darn good. I have it in this 4-inch build right now, and previously I had it in this 3-inch build. Now, these are 2 prototype frames that will not see the light of day. Both of these are, this one is just not even going to be made at all, because this was my original concept for the Runcam split. Unfortunately, the Runcam split ended up not being so great, so I've discontinued this design completely because I don't think it's going to be a very popular product. No point to it. But I do have another concept coming out. It will be this concept, and I redesigned this already. It's already on, the new version is on the way. But I basically want to say that this 4-in-1 performs flawlessly on this build on 3S, and absolutely flawlessly on this build with 4S. And these motors are kind of prototype motors from the BBB company, and they are not easy motors to run. They run very hot. There's some noise issues, some garbage going on with this quad that I can't figure out and don't really have the patience to figure out. But I have a 20 by 20 stack in here, and this thing weighs 158 grams dry with props on, which is stellar. I mean, this thing flies amazing, even though it's just 4-inch. It flies amazing. Okay, I'm gonna move a little bit quicker now because it's already been like 20 minutes. This is the previous 3-inch prototype, which is using the Spark. I think it's a Spark. Yeah, the Spark millivolt Spark. I don't know. The Race Flight 20 by 20 amp 4-in-1, which is not even, I have not had the best experience with this board. The instructions were not very clear on the website, and the performance has been okay. Hasn't been great, has been okay. I'd like to say that it's probably going to be more reliable than the other little board. Oh yeah, regarding this little board, I have asked them to make a couple of changes. One of the main changes I've asked them to make is to make these solder pads bigger, because running 4S 25 amps per ESC through 18 gauge wire it just sounds a little ridiculous. So they're doing those changes along with a couple other changes that I hope they'll make before it actually comes out. I think it might already be on sale, but they're going to update it to make those little changes. It's a great board so far. This is the best 20 by 20 4-in-1 that I have used yet. I haven't used them all. I've used a whole bunch of them. A bunch of them have burnt out on me too. So the Raceflight 4-in-1 I would not recommend. It's just ridiculously expensive, and it doesn't even perform as ideal as I would like. So I don't recommend that board. The good thing about it is that it does have a really good, robust 5-volt line out, which the other one doesn't have, which means that your flight controller, whatever you use, will need to have a BEC on board. All right, next and finally, oh yeah, finally is this guy. This is my new Acro prototype frame. And what you're looking at here is the middle section is made of HDPE. Now, HDPE is a very special material that's usually used for making those, like, children's, I say children's, but the preschool looking quads that are really chunky and just don't break at all, no matter how much you mash them up. And the reason I'm trying to use it here is because it doesn't break. And I asked them to, mix the material to make it as stiff as possible, and I left the standoff off so I can show you how stiff it is. This is the stiffest variation of HDPE, and there's also ultra high molecular weight polyurethane or polyethylene as well, which surprisingly is not any more dense, or it does not weigh anymore. And it's actually more flexible than HDPE. So they took the HDPE, tried to make it as stiff as possible for me, and gave me this cutout. This is my new Acro design. You can see it has vertical arms. This design, this general design of this long body with everything on top here and the arms like this in this configuration, exactly the layout of this design is Richard Howarth's design, 100% his. I saw his frame. It was a freaking awesome frame, and this is straight off his work. And I mean, I've redesigned all of it completely, but the layout is 100% his, and I give him complete credit for that because I think it's a fantastic layout. And unfortunately, the HDPE won't work because it's got some twist to it. I mean, I'm sure it'll fly well, but I think that once you like bang it up and once you take the top plate on and off a couple times, the HDPE will kind of maybe start to wear and the arms might get a little wiggly. I don't know. Right now, the arms are so freaking tight that I can't move them at all. I mean, this thing is not going to flex in the air. This is the tough, even with the HDPE, it's so solid. It's so solid. It doesn't even need standoffs. The thing just stays together. And I'm going to show you this. This is the last part. So obviously there's a carbon fiber version of it too. And this is how it's. The problem with this frame is that it's just a pain in the ass to work on. Super pain to work on because it's a 15mm build height, and that is a really narrow build height. So you got to be really good at building, really careful at building. I've redesigned it already from this prototype. The new design is actually going to be really reasonable, and I think I'm also going to have a 20mm tall version for people that are normal and not like crazy tiny builders. And that one will fit like one full 30 by 30 board along with a half board. So you can put the Matek VTX and the 30 by 30 board in there together. So it will be really nice and, really good. And the camera mount, it will be, I have a version for a full size camera as well, but I don't even think that I'll even cut a single version of that because there's a new micro coming out that's at 16:9, so why should I even bother with that? Anyways, this is how I am planning on putting together the Asguard inside the frame along with the Unify. I still have no idea where I'm going to be putting my receiver. I think I'm going to have to use an XM Plus, which is really annoying. I don't like that little thing. And I might try to somehow make it so that I can squeeze the VTX behind the camera, but I don't think that's going to work out. I think it's actually going to be a better build if you use a separate 4-in-1, or if I'm going to be using this Asguard, I might just have to go with the 20mm tall stack. The frame, not in this version. So the biggest thing about HDPE is that it actually weighs 70% less. I think it's 70%. Yeah, 70% less weight dense as carbon fiber. but it's so flexible that you have to use it in 3mm thick. So the weight savings of this frame versus the carbon version is roughly 4 grams, 3 to 4 grams, which is not really a huge weight savings, but it's nice. But I don't even know if I'm going to build this version. I don't have time for dealing with the flex, and it's not what I'm expecting. So I'm going to redesign the HDPE version into something else and use it for something else. So this is what I'm aiming to be my final Acro frame, the frame that I personally fly and I personally use on a regular basis for a long time going forward. And the reason I say that is because I don't think that we're going to be seeing any huge advances in frame technology or the way that they're built and put together for a while. I mean, you just can't beat the low cost of carbon fiber. I mean, you just can't. It's just flat carbon fiber is so cheap compared to, oh my God, what on earth is happening? All the dogs are howling. Is there a hurricane coming? Like, do you hear this? Listen to this. These are all the dogs down there. It sounds like there's a hurricane coming here. What is going on with this place? Anyways, that's the end. Yeah, that's it. Sorry for the long video. Hope you liked it. Ask anything you like. Don't forget to floss. Bye-bye.